Before you reach for the world, before you chase victories, titles, or the recognition of others, you must first turn inward. This is the path most avoid because it offers no applause, no shortcuts, no visible reward. It asks you to face the one opponent you cannot outrun, cannot silence, cannot defeat with strength alone. It asks you to meet yourself as you are, without armor, without excuses, without the comfort of pretending. I learned early that the greatest battles are not fought on open ground. They are fought in the quiet spaces of the mind, in the moments when no one is watching and nothing is demanded of you. It is there that your true nature reveals itself. Do you drift when you are not pushed? Do you grow restless when you are not entertained? Do you weaken when you are not praised? These are not small questions. They decide the shape of your life. You may believe that controlling the world will bring you peace. You may think that once you have enough power, enough skill, enough status, your heart will finally settle. But if your thoughts remain scattered, if your emotions command you instead of the other way around, every victory will feel hollow. You will stand at the top and still feel unsteady because the ground beneath you was never solid. So I began with the simplest and hardest task, to observe myself. I watched my impulses rise like sparks. The desire to speak when silence would serve better, the urge to react when stillness would bring clarity, the hunger for comfort when effort was needed. I did not judge these impulses, I did not fight them, I studied them. In understanding them, I began to loosen their grip. Control is not force, it is awareness. When you see a thought forming, you gain a moment of choice. You can follow it or you can let it pass. That moment is small, but it is powerful. In that space, you become free. Each time you choose what is deliberate over what is automatic, you strengthen something inside you that cannot be easily broken. There were days when my body wanted rest, my mind wanted distraction, and my spirit wanted an easier road. I listened to all of it, and then I chose my direction anyway, not out of cruelty toward myself, but out of respect for what I knew I could become. Self-mastery is not about denying your humanity. It is about guiding it. You do not crush the river, you build its banks so it flows where it should. As I practiced this, I noticed a change. The world around me remained the same, but my response to it did not. Insults lost their sting, praise lost its pull, success did not make me reckless, and failure did not make me bitter. I began to move through events instead of being carried by them. This calm did not come from indifference. It came from understanding that my inner state was my responsibility, not a gift from circumstance. People often chase control over others because they have not yet learned to control themselves. They try to shape opinions, dominate conversations, and bend situations to their will. But even if they succeed, they remain fragile. One harsh word, one unexpected loss, one moment of being ignored can unravel them. When you master yourself, the world may still push against you, but it cannot easily push you over. I learned to sit with discomfort without rushing to escape it. The ache in the muscles, the restlessness in the mind, the uncertainty in the heart. These sensations are not enemies, they are teachers. They show you where your limits are, and if you stay with them long enough, they show you how those limits can move. Each time you endure without complaint, you expand your capacity to endure more. This practice does not make you cold, it makes you clear. You begin to see people as they are, not as your emotions paint them. You listen without immediately preparing a response. You act without needing to explain yourself. This clarity creates a quiet strength. Others feel it before they understand it. They sense that you are not easily swayed, not easily provoked, not easily impressed. In mastering yourself, you also learn humility. You see how often you fall short of your own standards. You see how many times you choose the easier path when no one would know. This awareness is not meant to shame you, it is meant to sharpen you. Each shortcoming becomes a point of focus, a place where you can apply your effort the next time the choice appears. I did not aim to become perfect. Perfection is a distant horizon that moves as you approach it. I aim to become deliberate, to move with intention instead of impulse, to speak with purpose instead of habit, to act with clarity instead of reaction. These small shifts, repeated over time, create a transformation that feels almost invisible from the inside but unmistakable from the outside. As this inner order grew, I found that my goals changed. I no longer chased what would make me look strong. I sought what would make me be strong. I no longer pursued what would bring quick satisfaction. I pursued what would build lasting stability. The noise of the world grew quieter, not because it faded, but because my attention was no longer captured by every sound. This is the foundation on which everything else is built. Skill without self-mastery becomes recklessness. Knowledge without self-mastery becomes arrogance. Power without self-mastery becomes destruction. But when you govern your own mind and heart, every tool you acquire serves a clear and steady purpose. There will be moments when you forget this, when emotion surges and carries you away, when you act and later wish you had paused. Do not be discouraged. Mastery is not a single victory. It is a path you walk every day. Each mistake is a reminder of why you began. Each return to awareness is another step forward. I often return to the simplest question when I feel pulled off course. Am I choosing this, or is this choosing me? The answer is rarely comfortable, but it is always useful. When you choose your actions, you choose your direction. When you let your impulses choose for you, you give that direction away. If you commit to this work, you will notice something subtle and profound. You will begin to trust yourself. Not in the shallow sense of believing you are always right, but in the deeper sense of knowing that you can face whatever comes without losing your center. This trust becomes a quiet companion. It walks with you into uncertainty, into challenge, into moments where others hesitate. And when you stand in those moments, steady and clear, you will understand that mastering yourself was never a step before the journey. It was the journey. When you step away from the noise of the world, the first thing you feel is not peace. You feel the absence of something you have relied on for too long. The voices, the opinions, the endless movement of others around you have been guiding your steps without you realizing it. When they fall silent, you are left standing in an open space with no signs pointing the way. This moment is uncomfortable, and that is why it is valuable. I did not seek silence because I wanted to escape people. I sought it because I wanted to hear something more honest than the world's constant instruction. In the crowd, you are always being told who to be, what to chase, what to fear, and what to admire. Those messages settle into your mind like dust, layer by layer, until you can no longer see what you truly want beneath them. Solitude is the wind that clears the air. At first, your thoughts will grow louder. Without distractions, your mind will try to fill the space with everything it has been storing. Old memories, unfinished plans, imagined futures, and doubts you have avoided will all rise to the surface. This is not a sign that you are failing. It is a sign that you are finally listening. I learned to sit with these thoughts instead of chasing them away. I let them speak, and I watched which ones returned again and again. The ones that persist are often the ones pointing you toward your true direction. Direction does not arrive like a command shouted across a battlefield. It comes like a whisper in a quiet room. It does not demand your attention, it waits for it. When you give it space, you begin to notice a steady pull toward certain actions, certain goals, certain ways of being. This pull is not always comfortable. In fact, it often leads you toward what you have been avoiding. That is how you know it is real. There were times when I would sit alone and feel the weight of my own uncertainty. The path ahead was not clear. The future did not offer guarantees, but in that stillness I realized something important. Clarity does not always come before movement. Sometimes movement creates clarity. When you act in alignment with what feels necessary, even if it feels difficult, the path begins to reveal itself step by step. Solitude teaches you to trust your own judgment, not because it is always perfect, but because it becomes informed by reflection instead of reaction. When you are constantly surrounded, your decisions are shaped by the immediate energy of others. Their excitement becomes your excitement, their fear becomes your fear, their urgency becomes your urgency. Alone, you can feel the difference between what truly matters and what is simply loud. I learned to ask myself simple questions in the quiet. What am I doing this for? What am I willing to sacrifice? What kind of person do I want to become even if no one ever notices? These questions do not produce easy answers. They produce honest ones, and honesty, even when it is uncomfortable, is a powerful guide. As you spend more time in this space, you begin to notice how much of your life has been shaped by the desire to belong. You follow paths because they are crowded. You chase goals because they are admired. You adopt opinions because they are popular. There is nothing wrong with connection, but when belonging becomes your compass, you will always be moving in circles around other people's expectations. In silence, you step out of that circle. You begin to move in a straight line towards something that feels personal, something that feels like it belongs to you alone. This can feel isolating. You may look around and realize that fewer people are walking beside you, but the ones who remain, including yourself, are there by choice, not by habit. The more you listen to this inner direction, the more you realize it does not change quickly. Trends rise and fall, opinions shift, crowds move from one excitement to the next, but the quiet sense of what you are meant to build, to practice, to become remains steady. It does not demand constant attention, it simply waits for you to return to it. There were moments when I doubted this path, when I wondered if I was missing out on something by walking alone. But each time I returned to the noise, I felt my focus scatter. My energy divided, my purpose blurred, and each time I returned to silence, it sharpened again. This taught me that peace is not found in being surrounded, it is found in being aligned. In this alignment, your actions begin to carry a different weight. You are no longer moving to prove something, you are moving to build something. You are no longer reacting to what is in front of you, you are responding to what is within you. This shift is subtle, but it changes everything. The same challenges appear, but you meet them with a steadier hand. The same temptations arise, but they do not pull as strongly. Solitude also teaches patience. When there is no one to rush you, no one to measure your progress, you begin to move at a pace that feels deliberate instead of frantic. You learn to value depth over speed. You practice the same movement, the same thought, the same habit, not because it brings immediate reward, but because it brings gradual refinement. This kind of progress is quiet. It does not announce itself, but it lasts. As this practice continues, you start to carry the silence with you even when you return to the world. The noise no longer overwhelms you. The opinions of others no longer pull you off course so easily. You have a reference point inside yourself, a steady sense of direction that remains even when everything around you feels uncertain. This does not make you distant, it makes you present. You listen more carefully, you speak more intentionally, you move with a sense of purpose that others can feel even if they cannot name it. They may ask you where you found your confidence, your calm, your focus. You will know that it was not found in a book or a crowd. It was found in the moments when you chose to be alone and stay there long enough to hear what your own life was trying to tell you. And once you hear it, you never walk the same way again. There comes a moment when you realize that what you repeat in private is more powerful than what you promise in public. Words can be spoken once and forgotten. Habits are spoken every day through action. I learned that discipline is not something you put on when the world is watching. It is something you wear under your skin, something that shapes how you move even when no one would ever know if you stopped. At first, I treated effort like a tool. I picked it up when I needed it and set it down when I felt tired. But tools do not change the hands that hold them. I wanted something deeper than temporary strength. I wanted a way of being that did not depend on mood, weather, or circumstance. So I began to repeat the same simple acts every day, not because they were impressive, but because they were necessary. The repetition felt small at first, a few quiet movements, a few focused breaths, a few moments of attention when my mind wanted to wander. There was no sense of greatness in it, no feeling of progress that could be shown or measured, but over time something subtle began to happen. The effort stopped feeling like a decision. It started to feel like a natural part of who I was. This is how identity is formed, not in grand gestures but in the ordinary choices you make when you think they do not matter. Each time you stand up when you could stay down, each time you continue when you could stop, you send a message to yourself. That message says, "This is who I am," and the mind listens. There were days when I felt strong and the work felt light. There were days when I felt heavy and every movement felt like a burden. On those days, I learned the true meaning of discipline. It is easy to act when you feel inspired. It is rare to act when you feel nothing at all, but those empty moments are the ones that shape you most. They teach you to move without being pushed. I stopped asking myself how I felt about the work. I started asking myself who I wanted to be. The answer did not change often, even when my emotions did. So I let that answer guide my actions. This created a quiet stability inside me. I no longer rose and fell with every wave of motivation. I moved forward with a steady current. As this practice continued, I noticed that my confidence no longer came from results alone. It came from consistency. Even on days when progress was slow, I knew I had kept my word to myself. That knowledge carried a weight that no praise from others could match. It was private, but it was solid. People often mistake discipline for harshness. They imagine it as a voice that shouts, demands, and punishes. That is not the kind I learned to follow. The discipline I built was calm. It did not insult me when I failed, it simply asked me to return, again and again. This gentleness made it stronger, not weaker, because it allowed me to continue without burning myself out. In time, the boundaries I set for myself became a form of freedom. When you decide in advance what you will and will not do, you remove countless small battles from your day. You no longer argue with yourself about every choice. You act according to a code you have already accepted. This saves energy, and that energy can be used to go deeper, to refine, to improve. I saw how easily people are pulled in different directions. A new desire appears and they chase it. A new fear arises and they retreat. Their lives become a series of reactions. Discipline breaks this pattern. It creates a line you walk regardless of what appears on either side. This line does not make life dull, it makes it clear. There were moments when this path felt lonely. Others would choose rest when I chose effort. They would choose distraction when I chose focus. I did not judge them. Everyone walks the road they are ready to walk. But I felt a growing distance, not in space but in direction. That distance was the price of becoming someone different. Over time, the things that once felt difficult began to feel normal. Waking early no longer felt like a sacrifice. It felt like the natural start of the day. Working in silence no longer felt empty. It felt clean. The mind became less crowded, the body became more responsive, the will became quieter but stronger. This is what happens when discipline becomes identity. You no longer need to remind yourself to be focused. You are focused. You no longer need to convince yourself to be patient. You are patient. These qualities move from the surface of your life to its core. They show up in how you listen, how you speak, how you handle conflict, how you face uncertainty. When challenges arise, you do not search for strength. You find it already present, not as a surge of emotion but as a steady readiness. You know you can endure because you have practiced enduring in small ways every day. You know you can stay calm because you have practiced stillness when there was no pressure. I also learned that discipline does not mean rigidity. It does not mean refusing to change. It means choosing your changes deliberately instead of being pushed into them by circumstance. You remain flexible but not loose. You adapt but you do not drift. As the years passed, I could see the difference between those who acted when it was convenient and those who acted because it was their nature. The first group made progress in bursts. The second moved forward like a river, slowly but without stopping. I chose to be the river. This choice shaped how I viewed success. I no longer measured it only by what I achieved. I measured it by how consistently I lived according to my own standards. There were days when the world would have called me successful. There were days when it would not, but my own measure remained the same. In this way, discipline became a form of self-respect. Each action was a way of saying, I value the person I am becoming. This respect did not depend on recognition. It did not need approval. It existed in the quiet knowledge that I was aligned with my own path. If you choose to walk this way, understand that it is not a sudden transformation. It is a gradual shaping. Like stone worn smooth by water, you are changed by the steady touch of repeated effort. You may not notice it day by day, but one day you will look back and realize you are standing on ground you never imagined you could reach. And when that moment comes, you will know that the greatest victory was not over any challenge outside you. It was over the version of yourself that wanted to stop.